This is U.S. President Donald Trump with his rousing campaign-style speech and signature moves at a rally in Michigan.
Well, we're fighting to protect Americans. The radical left Democrats, who are so bad for this country, are fighting to protect TDA, you just saw that, and MS-13 criminals, and you don't even know which is worse, but they are the top of the line.
And right, this was Trump's speech at a rally in Michigan as Trump completes a rather eventful 100 days in the White House, second time as the President of America. A quick look back will tell you how his victories are not just unique, but also extreme in a sense. When was the last time you heard of a president who went on a spree of signing executive orders, one after the other, or cracked down hard on border crossings with his immigration policies, or perhaps obsessed over a flurry of mass deportations? Chances are you haven't. Trump is also the one to dodge most bullets, with maximum lawsuits filed against him and his approval ratings plunging more than any president in recent times. In a recent interview with ABC News, Trump discussed court battles and insisted that his administration is extremely careful when it comes to deportations. Take a listen.
A major trial for every person that came in illegally. We have thousands of murderers that came in. They're going to murder people. I can't have a trial, a major trial for every person that came in illegally. We have thousands of murderers that came in. They're going to murder people. They already have murdered people in our country.
Right, too.
In the face of it all, Trump stands firm and resolute, promising his supporters of profound change and a broader vision of Trumperica. In his own words, he said, and I quote here, he's just getting started. As you know, the first 100 days for any president since Inauguration Day is extremely important and critical, and pretty much sets the tone for what's in store. For Trump too, that's no exception. But be it his controversial policy changes or putting together a breaking cabinet, Trump has done it all. Not just that. What sets Trump's dream team apart is having the world's richest man, Elon Musk, as his faithful aide, whom Trump had entrusted with the responsibility of shrinking federal workforce through the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, as we all know it. However, in the past 100 days, what has been some of the most standouts of Trump 2.0, if you wonder, number one is the economy. Like I said, number one is the economy. Sure, Trump's move to impose tariffs have thrown the global markets a bit off balance. But that aside, the Trump administration seemed to have fared well, but in terms of slashing job and costly regulations. Add to that permanent tax cuts, which rather goes into the savings of middle-class households. Moreover, Trump remains committed in bringing about a resurgence in domestic manufacturing, now more than ever, thereby lessening reliance on its trading partners like China and Mexico.
We had 4 great years. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. The stock market went up 88%. We did great. And we're going to do better now, because now we learned a little bit.
Number two, upholding the Republican manifesto. It's clear by now Trump leaves no stone unturned in putting his party first. Speaking at a rally, Trump mocked his Democratic predecessor, former U.S. President Joe Biden, and hurled fresh criticism at the U.S. Federal Reserve's chairman. Trump also asked the crowd for their favorite Biden nicknames. On a lighter note, but on a serious note, the tiff between the Republicans and Democrats remains a full rager, with Democrats pushing back against Trump's tenure by brandishing it as 100 days of chaos. That's what the Democrats are calling. Well, moving on. Number three is renewed campaign energy. In the first 100 days of Trump's second term in the White House, federal courts have slowed or halted some of his most aggressive moves. But nothing really seems to be stopping Trump, who is adamant with his campaign roar of making America great again. One that won him a second tenure and a popular people's mandate. At this point, it is perhaps pertinent to ask how many of his campaign promises still stand. At the beginning of his term, he vowed resolving conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine and his resolve to forge a peace deal on day one. 100 days on, that peace looks elusive. With world leaders caught in limbo as far as negotiations and ceasefires are concerned, as a result, lives are being lost in all these areas every day and new fronts of wars opening up, with US as a key stakeholder. All said and done, Trump continues to assert his vows at rallies, speeches and pressers and his undying resolve to put America first at all costs. 100 days on, his wish list keeps expanding, even as his report card shows a mix of positives and negatives. The question is, can he live up to his varied and yet unfulfilled promises and honor his oath to Americans? That we'll have to wait and watch. Indian Ocean ship WION Sagar has shared pictures of its successful port, call it Port Louis, Mauritius, from April 26th to 28th. As a part of its operational deployment in the Indian Ocean, on departure from Port Louis, WION Sagar undertook a joint and exclusive economic zone surveillance with the Mauritius Coast Guard. Next, WION Sagar will proceed to its next port of call, that is Port Victoria. With this, the Indian Navy continues its mission of enhancing maritime security, regional cooperation and goodwill in the Indian Ocean region. Take a look. We now turn our attention to Nepal. The country is tightening the rules for climbing the world's tallest mountain, the Mount Everest. Nepal plans to implement a new law that will grant climbing permit to only those who have already conquered peaks of at least 7,000 meters. This is being done because for years, Nepal has been welcoming climbers from around the globe. And this has caused overcrowding near the Everest summit, especially in the treacherous death zone. The dangerously low oxygen levels have led to an increase in fatalities. In 2023 alone, 12 climbers lost their lives on Mount Everest, while 5 others vanished without trace. And all this happened the same year Nepal handed out a record 478 climbing permits. The Nepalese officials now seem to be drawing a line. Under the proposed rules, no one will be allowed to set foot on Everest till they have conquered one of Nepal's 7,000-meter mountains first. And that's not all. Both the lead Sherpa and the expedition guide must also be Nepalis. Nepal's National Assembly is mulling the proposed law. According to Nepal's Department of Tourism, as of this spring, 402 climbers from 53 different countries have already secured their passes to Everest. But moving forward, many of them might not qualify. Nepal has over 400 peaks open to climbers. Among them, 74 are above the height of 7,000 meters. And Nepal's message is clear right now. If you plan to conquer Everest, then prove your mettle by first climbing a 7,000-meter mountain. Liberation, unification and an end of a 19-year-long war. 50 years have passed since war ended in Vietnam, but the memories of the war are entrenched in the country's collective memory. 50 years ago today, North Vietnamese forces entered the city of Saigon, marking a victory for communist leader Ho Chi Minh. Saigon became the Ho Chi Minh city on 30th April 1975. 5 decades later, streets in the city are soaked in the spirit of patriotism. Flags and posters have taken over the city's landscape. People recall the end of war and beginning of a new era.
All these things, banners, the flags and flowers, everything on the streets. People are feeling joyful because this is the celebration of a great victory. I am very happy to live in the days of peace and independence.
The United States entered the Vietnam War to stop the spread of communism in Asia. It provided massive military, economic and political support to South Vietnam against the communist North. Over 500,000 American troops were deployed at the war's peak. The war became America's longest war until it withdrew in 1973. The war in Vietnam claimed the lives of nearly 60,000 Americans, many of them young soldiers drafted by their government. Some 3 million Vietnamese died on both the sides of what is known in Vietnam as the American War.
50 years ago, the decades-long Vietnam War ended on April 30th. In the years that followed, Vietnam repaired itself. Now armed with lessons from the past, it grew. Its economy is now an exporting powerhouse. It mended its relationship with its former foe, the US, which is now a comprehensive strategic partner, the highest diplomatic status that it gives to any country. But today, as millions pour into Ho Chi Minh City, it has new economic and geopolitical realities that it has to reckon with. The country is caught in the crosshairs of Donald Trump's tariff plans, and at the same time, it has to deal with the new reality of US aid funding being slashed. These funds were crucial for war legacy programs, which has been the bedrock of US and Vietnam friendship.